Hello, everyone. I'm thrilled to welcome our guests, panelists, and moderators at Ananke's Women in Literature Festival 2021. This festival was born on the premise of creating a space to hold inclusive conversations about literature under a gender lens, and also to celebrate works of literature by women of letters. I'm privileged to introduce our keynote session by Aysha Baqir, who will be talking about the topic rural realities. I would like to sincerely thank her for coming on board, and I'd like to now introduce Aysha. Aysha Baqir grew up in Pakistan. Her time in Mount Holyoke College sparked a passion for economic development. In 1998, she founded a pioneering not-for-profit economic development organization, KAARVAN Crafts Foundation, with a mission to alleviate poverty by providing business and marketing training to girls and women in low-income communities. Her novel, Beyond the Fields, was published in January 2019 and shortlisted for Best Debut English at the 9th UBL Literary Awards. She was invited to launch her book at Lahore and Karachi literary festivals and was featured in the Singapore Writers' Festival in 2019 and Money FM Career 360 show in Singapore. Her interviews, book reviews, articles, and short stories have appeared in Countercurrents, Borderless, Expat Living, The Herald, Mount Holyoke Alumni Quarterly, The Kitab, The Tempest, and Singapore Writers Group Forum. She is an Ashoka Fellow. And you can read more about her at www.ayshabaqir, that's AYSHABAQIR.com. So welcome, Aysha, and thank you for participating in this event.
Good evening. Congratulations to the whole Ananke team for putting together such a wonderful event, Women in Literature 2021. Thank you, Sabine, for inviting me to the keynote address, Rural Realities. I'm delighted to be here. I'll just share my screen. Welcome to the keynote, Rural Realities. All right. Welcome to Rural Realities. I am an author and an activist. My novel, Beyond the Fields, was published by Marshall Cavendish in 2019. The author in me leans towards carving my journey into chapters. So I grew up in Lahore. I won a scholarship to Mount Holyoke College in the United States. And I joined the liberal arts program with the intention to study psychology. I took a class, Politics of Third World Development, and I was gripped by the realization of how little I knew about the socio-economic realities of developing countries. In Pakistan, I had led a sheltered and cocooned life. I returned back to Lahore. For a year, I grappled with burning questions. What did it take to make significant change in the lives of the poor? Did the poor need our charity or sympathy? Or did they need access to markets and skills? I joined the Lahore University of Management Sciences for my MBA. And after graduation, I founded KAARVAN Crafts, a not-for-profit organization working with rural women to alleviate poverty. I led the foundation from 1998 to 2013, when I relocated to Singapore and embarked on a journey to write Beyond the Fields. KAARVAN's mission is to build and strengthen skills and business capacities of women entrepreneurs in low-income communities, so they are successfully able to pursue entrepreneurial opportunities, participate successfully in the markets, and improve their economic realities. More information on KAARVAN can be found on its webpage, www.kaarvan.com.pk. KAARVAN takes a strategic value chain development approach to its work. It develops a network of women leaders in rural areas. This is significant and critical because women in rural areas are unorganized and isolated. By bringing them together in a collective platform, KAARVAN is able to facilitate learnings and sharings. Women are able to exchange ideas, collaborate, and even build their negotiation skills and leadership abilities. KAARVAN facilitates access to training, coaching, and capacity building services. KAARVAN facilitates trainings on product development, design, production management, production planning, quality control. Coaching and capacity building is available in areas of communication, conflict resolution, team building, and leadership. KAARVAN also provides access, or rather facilitates access of women entrepreneurs to buyers in both national and international markets. Digital literacy is a key component of KAARVAN's work, especially in the pandemic times. Women entrepreneurs have been able to transact orders while in their villages. Development, not dependence, is a fundamental principle running through KAARVAN's work. What does that mean? It means that when KAARVAN plans its activities, it also plans its exit, meaning that after the project finishes, the benefits will continue to accrue to the woman through market mechanisms. And this is real change. KAARVAN has been able to break some myths. First, rural women are homebound. Incorrect. If you provide rural women the opportunity for dignified livelihoods, they will step out of their houses. Rural women do not make timely deliveries. Incorrect. If you're able to train women to plan properly and to manage their orders, they are willing and able to make timely deliveries. Rural women cannot provide quality products. Incorrect. This is rather an issue of rural women not understanding what quality parameters the market is looking for. If they're provided the correct understanding and the training, they are able to meet market demands. KAARVAN's women, the entrepreneurs in South Punjab and northern areas, are now successfully working with retailers and wholesalers in national and international markets. But if we look at the impact, it's significant. KAARVAN works in over 22 districts. It has empowered over 25,000 women entrepreneurs. It has digitally enabled 80 women leaders. It's present in over 1,000 villages and runs over 250 development centers. However, impact cannot be measured by numbers alone. So the KAARVAN team went back to the women and requested them to share their sentiments about working with KAARVAN. I have given my family what we thought we had lost forever, hope, says Anis Fatima, a rural entrepreneur in South Punjab. Skills helped me break many social barriers that had kept me caged in all these years. Nabila Kausar. Simply start somewhere. The road ahead will unravel itself. Rehana Kausar. These powerful literary statements highlight once again that impact is multidimensional and words are perhaps a powerful mechanism of change. And maybe that's why when I moved to Singapore, I began to write my debut novel, Beyond the Fields. Beyond the Fields is about rape, resilience, and reclaiming honor. It is about a young village girl named Zara. Zara has dreams. She wants to study. She wants to become someone important. And one afternoon, her twin Tara, who she's closest to in the whole world, is kidnapped from the fields and raped. In the days and weeks that follow, Zara sees her family, her relatives, and her community bowing down and succumbing to the almost demonic laws and norms that dominate the village. In the face of this adversity, she vows to seek justice for her twin on her terms. Why rape? I've been asked this question. I'd worked in economic development. I'd run a foundation. Why did I write about rape? And the answer ties back to a hot, humid afternoon of July 1999. KAARVAN was nascent, not even a year old. I sat in the courtyard of one Razia Baji, trying to convince her to send her daughters to a training that was happening just down the lane. Razia Baji said, the girls have to help me cook and they have to look after the younger siblings. I tried to develop solutions and said, well, could the cooking be done earlier or later? Could someone else perhaps manage the younger children for a while? Because this would enable them to earn an income. And then finally she turned to me and said, you don't understand. It only takes a minute, but the shame lasts a lifetime. Her words left me paralyzed. I didn't know what to say to her. I kept quiet. And to date, her words haunt me and stay with me. When I moved to Singapore, I found the space to write. But everywhere, every day that I looked, the cases of rape and sexual assault were climbing frighteningly high. Rape is a silent pandemic, and according to the World Health Organization, 1 in every 3 women worldwide has been sexually or physically abused by her partner or suffered non-partner sexual violence. I sit beyond the fields in the village. I had worked in the villages for over 15 years. I wanted to show the readers the strength, the determination, the perseverance with which village women carry on, even despite hardships. But at the same time, I wanted to draw the readers into the almost intriguing duality that exists in the villages of hope and despair, light and shadow, good and evil. And to date, it draws me. Beyond the Fields was set in the 1980s because that was the time a series of laws were introduced which crippled the rights of women for decades to come. I remember attending a demonstration as a young girl. The protest was called by Women's Action Forum for a young blind girl, Safia Bibi, who had been raped by her employer and his son. Because she was blind and because she was unable to prove she was raped, this prompted the judge to sentence her to jail time and lashings. And as I stood that day in the protest, I couldn't help but think how many Safia Bibis had gone unnoticed in Pakistan or across the world. To sum it up, my honor, the izzat I bring to my family, is that all there is to me? Asks a 15-year-old Zara in Beyond the Fields. And then, of course, she goes on to prove that no, that's all there is to her. But why rural realities? Why do they matter? Over 50% of Pakistan's population lives in rural areas. Over 60% of South Asia's population lives in rural areas. Over 60 million women live in rural areas of Pakistan. Over 590 million women live in rural areas of South Asia. These numbers are significant and they matter. So the question we must ask is that, are these numbers and lives and voices being represented in the literature around us? And if not, then what can we do to change it? Moving on to look at some more statistics. If we look at the distribution of paid and unpaid workers by region and sex. It is shocking. In the rural areas, 60% of the women are not paid for the work they do. The numbers get a bit better when you move to the urban areas, but still, it is clear there is a bias against women, and there is a further bias against rural women. If we glance at the distribution of employed women by occupation, we see that 62% of the women are in agriculture and fishery, but 77% earn less than the minimum wage. Again, highlighting the extreme bias against rural women. In the face of this, rural realities are marked by violence. It takes less than a minute, but the shame lasts a lifetime, says Razia Baji. Women are isolated and unorganized for the most part. And because they are unorganized and isolated, they're unable to come together to form solutions. Justice to access is low. There are no police stations or forums of justice in the villages. Access to land ownership is close to impossible, although it is legally allowed. And there are limited economic opportunities, meaning men and women both are primarily dependent on the land for survival. Yet, there is hope. There is change, there is creativity, and there's collaboration, showing what happens when women come together and make the momentum of growth possible. This is one of my favorite photographs. It was taken when women entrepreneurs successfully completed a huge order for a retailer in Pakistan. In the words of Margaret Atwood, a word after a word after a word is power. And with that, I would like to read a small passage in the hope that it will leave you with a closer understanding of rural realities. As soon as we learned to walk, Amma set us on chores. She woke us at dawn, and in the time we took to clean our teeth with a shisham twig, wash our faces, and plait our hip-length hair, she had our work lined up. We cooked breakfast, dusted the rooms, swept the floor, sorted grains, fed and washed the livestock. But in the afternoon, when Amma went inside to nap, leaving us with more chores, we created adventures. Washing clothes, we pretended to fight monsters crawling up the riverbank. Soaking rice and lentils, we stirred the brews to poison the witch who had captured many of the villagers. Dusting, we searched for the hidden treasures, pretending to be sailors. We grew up imagining new adventures and creating characters out of the stories our Nani had told us and the books I had read. But then Nani left, taking the stories and adventures with her, and Amma began to pull us apart. She told Tara to cook and me to clean. She told Tara to sweep and me to wash clothes. She told me to fetch water and Tara to mend clothes. And she compared us, clicking her tongue and jabbing her thumb on her pinky, going on and on about who did better. Tara did, always. I stepped back to study the sofa. The wood gleamed, or was it the light? Setting the oil lamp to one side, I shook out the frayed crochet cover over the wooden table to hide the chipped corners. I dusted the plastic mats filled with pictures of wild birds and beasts that haunted my dreams. I arranged a set of pink-flowered plastic plates and cups on the 2 mud shelves. I wiped the poster of the fair golden-haired baby boy. He sat on his bottom, smiling away. He had every reason to smile. He had golden hair and fair skin, and he was a boy. In our village, it made all the difference. Sometimes I caught Amma staring at the poster when she thought no one was looking. Plucking a bunch of plastic daisies from the clay vase, I brushed off the dust. Nothing matched, but Amma still crammed this room with her most valued possessions of her dowry. No one visited anymore, but Amma insisted we sweep and dust daily. I stuffed the flowers back into the vase and hurried out to the next room. 2 creaking charpais, set against opposite walls, took up most of the space. Amma and Abba slept on the slightly larger one, while Tara and I slept on the other. I spread the ragged blankets over the charpai and rolled out my brother's bedding, a thin straw mat between them. I sorted the heap of washed clothes and hung them behind the door. Catching my reflection, a narrow tanned face with a smattering of freckles in the cracked mirror, I swung away. Amma had forbidden us to look in the mirror. She said it was haram. The devil lurked behind the glass, wanting to catch young girls who peered inside. Only Abba used the mirror to clip his mustache. I straightened my chadar over my head and, turning away, banged my shin against the tin chest filled with our clothes. In the last year, my arms and legs had shot out, making me stumble when I moved too fast. I stepped out and stopped. Had the mud walls moved in closer? Why did I suddenly feel trapped? Even the air was still. I shut my eyes and took a deep breath. We lived at the end of the village, in a small hut tucked away between a dirt track and fields. Our courtyard was crowded with 2 charpais, one for Abba and the other for our guests. Amma only sat on the charpai when Abba was out. When he was home, she hovered around him or squatted by the cooking pit. Thank you so much.